So in Islamic law, boycotts fall under what's designated as wasa'il, means. And in general, wasa'il are not considered something which is going to be designated bid'ah, as mentioned by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, Ash-Shatibi, and others, because as long as they're not affecting an act of worship, like Salah, like Ramadan, like Hajj, then they don't fall under the designation of bid'ah. In fact, it's an axiom in Usul al-Fiqh that says, الأمور العادية التي لا تؤثر في ذات القربة والعبادة فلا تعتبر بدعة. That those like things like we're talking about now, like boycotts, things that fall under just means to accomplish things that are good, as long as they don't impact acts of worship, then they do not fall under the designation of bid'ah. So that's the first thing. These are wasa'il. The next, there is a precedent for this within the sources of evidences in Sharia. For example, when the Prophet, at the end of Surah Al-Tawbah, وَعَلَى ثَلَاثَةِ الَّذِينَ خُلِفُوا, those three people that had refused to join the battle for whatever reason, they were boycotted by the community, Ka'b being one of them. Number two, Imam Malik in the Muwatta of Yahya, he's talking about refusing to sell or buy goods from someone who is evil. He's talking about Muslims. The first evidence is Muslims. This evidence is Muslims. If it's allowed, Imam Malik said, I see no problem with that. And that's the way of the people of Medina. If there's no problem in boycotting those people who are Muslims, then what about the enemies of Islam who are killing 100 children a day? Also, the example of Thumama al-Hanafi, some people I heard say you have to have the permission of the Amir. Well, when he became Muslim, he boycotted the Quraysh without the knowledge of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet did not rebuke him. So it shows that we can also do boycotts without the permission of quote-unquote the rulers. So in summary, boycotts fall under what's called al-umur al-adiyah, those things which people use in their lives to accomplish good and to prevent harm and evil. And they don't, their asl is not bid'ah. Like their designation, their default is not an innovation, because heterodoxy only applies to acts of qurba and ibadah. And this is where we find a lot of sloppiness, a lot of shallowness, people using terms in ways that take the meaning out of the term and actually collapse the original meaning which is intended. Because bid'ah is not something that's applied to al-wasa'il in general. It's applied to acts of worship or things that impact acts of worship explicitly. And that's showing that those people are ignorant, shallow, or just like very much into their like way of thinking or their group, and just labeling everything like this bid'ah. But these are not acts of bid'ah. In fact, these are acts of khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be on the haqq.